Like it was this raw beauty, this like there was strength and there was power and there was vulnerability and there was resilience all in this one photo in a season where I was heavier than I had ever been before. And even now, I love this photo more than any other photo I've ever had taken because of that. And it was in this moment, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is like, I want to walk women in their journeys as they are. Like, you don't have to change who you are to love who you are. I didn't know how to say that then, but that's what this mission became to me because I've lived this. And at one point in time, I ran away and I jumped off a bridge and I broke my leg. And I remember laying at the bottom of that creek thinking something's got to be different. That this cannot. Because like when you went into this home, you only heard of two things. You heard of girls getting sent to other homes, like more strict, more behavioral places, or going to prison someday. Like you didn't hear success stories. You never heard them. So when I was actually put in this home, I thought my life was over. I thought I was just doomed for prison or for someone's life. And so 8 months in, I jumped off this bridge and I was like, no, there's got to be something different.
How are you, friends?
I'm good.
Oh my gosh. So how was the drive?
So I'm listening to I'm listening to an audiobook right now. I should be listening to my work audiobooks, but no, like it's fiction. I'm like, it was too early in the morning to focus on education. Like,
Right.
right.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So remind me about where you live. You're in Iowa.
Yes, I'm in Pella, Iowa,
Mhm.
which is Des Moines. Des Moines is a city that everybody pretty much knows. I'm about an hour east of Des Moines.
Okay. Okay. And so what's life like there in Iowa?
Well, there's lots of corn. Well, not this time of year, but corn.
Mhm.
It's still different than here, really. Like, smaller town, where I'm at. So I go to Des Moines once a week for business, like, and networking. But other than that, like, I think we have like 10,000 people, depending on when college is in session. And what's funny is like, so I grew up in Sioux City and then spent a lot of time in Sioux Falls. And then I've been in Chicago and a couple other places here or there. But now I complain when I have to go across town to the other grocery store, which takes me, it's like 2 miles, like it takes me 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, I have to go across town. Like,
I love it. The kind of like the small town vibe. And you know, as you were getting ready to come over here, I was just thinking about how you and I met, which was so random, but was so on purpose.
right.
And like, you have to tell me, how did you find me on Facebook?
It was like it wasn't somebody suggested, like, you know how Facebook says you might know this person.
Yeah, I always ignore those.
Well, so I like a social media person, was telling me because I've been struggling with my business social media.
Mhm.
And so he's like, you know, like Facebook prioritizes like personal over business. And so he's like, go and start adding people that you either want to get to know or that are in your like, not your field, but like, you know, like the people that partner well with you.
Yeah.
Right. You know, like, and he was like, and get to know them. He's like, don't just like blanket add people that like actually make an effort. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so I started doing that, I don't know, like a year ago. And that's like, what's interesting is like a lot of the people that are on my like, personal like friend group,
Mhm.
like respond to my stuff on my personal page. I'll post the same stuff on my business page. And the difference is crazy because they're not seeing it on my business page.
Yeah, it's hard to get
Yeah.
some traction on those.
Right.
Social media is tricky in general.
So that's why I don't really like, I don't ignore it, but I go through phases where I'll add a bunch of people and then I'll be like, no, like sometimes I feel like a stalker and I'm like, I'm not, I promise. I'm just like trying to get to know people. Like,
No, you're not.
right.
So you saw me, it suggested me, and then what happened?
Well, so then I clicked on your page and I'm like, well, she looks fascinating. And I went to your website and I'm like, and I don't think I watched any videos or anything. I just was like, huh, she lives in Omaha. I'm going to be in Omaha in a month. Let's see if she'll go to coffee. I never do that. I like, of all the people I've added, I've never invited somebody to coffee on like, no.
Yeah.
Like I have since been like, okay, maybe I should. Like, but no, like especially not like you're 3 hours away from me. Like,
Right.
so it's like, okay, but well.
But it was so purposeful though, because like when you reached out, you said hi, and we just kind of connected. And I don't usually do that either.
Right.
Like when people send me stuff, send me a friend request. First of all, I have no connection with them. I'm thinking spam.
Right.
Scam likely.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I just kind of leaned into what you were saying. We both have, love for God. And it was just so like, I feel like it was purposeful, the two of us meeting.
Yeah.
And how we were talking about how can we pray for one another. I mean, I just loved our first text conversation. And then fast forward to what was it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
On like the coldest day.
Oh,
it was
seriously.
like negative.
Yeah.
The night before, you're texting me like, hey,
Just surgery's happening. Well, and part of it was I didn't know what my family's expectations were. Like how is the surgery gonna go? Like what? Like, and then like so one of my best friends lives in Lincoln, and so I was gonna be staying at her. Like the first night of the surgery, I was staying with my aunt in a hotel room, but then it was more of like, what is my mom's needs gonna be? And then I'm gonna be staying with my friend in Lincoln who I haven't seen in a year. So it's like, okay, I really want to see her and pour into her a little bit, but also be available for my mom. So it's like, okay, I don't know when and where. And I actually think I saw you before the surgery. It was like, because there was another person I was connecting with who I haven't seen since I was a teenager, but I know she lived in Lincoln. Like you and then my friend Jill, who I haven't seen in a long time. I'm like, I want to connect with these two people, but Jill is in Lincoln, so I have to do this on this day, but I want to make sure I'm available for mom on this day. So this really is the only time that logistically works. Because on Sunday I promised Kirk that I'd be home at a decent time. Because I had just gotten back from Cabo as well, like for a business trip. And so like I've been away from home quite a bit. I'm like, okay, I'll try to like not take too much time away from home.
That was crazy. Just getting together in the cold. I actually left my car running the entire time. I did, because you remember I had to get up and like go and check and see if it was still on. Somehow.
We're still there?
Yeah, like, let me go check on something really quick.
Right.
We're like in some deep conversation, and our conversation was so good. I mean, you talked about a lot of different things that I was just saying to myself while you were speaking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so great to have you on Barefoot Conversations, because it's all about women who have like walked through something, and I call it the fire. We've all had these fire moments where God has met us,
You ever heard of Bebo Norman?
No.
So I used to listen to him when I was a teenager. He's he's a lot slower in music, but his words are so fantastic. And The Hammer Holds. You need to listen to that song.
Oh, The Hammer Holds. Bebo who?
Bebo Norman.
Bebo Norman. Okay.
I'll text it to you.
Yes, yes.
But it is still to this day one of my favorite songs, and it talks about like what that fire is, and like the pain that you're going through, like the pounding, and like like there's this force that's shaping me, and I have no idea what it's shaping me to be. It's a very awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I want to listen to that. Definitely read over the lyrics, because I feel like every person I talk to, everyone I talk to, all the different applications I'm reading through, there's this moment, like this pivotal moment where they know that it was nothing but God that met them, that rescued them, that helped them to see that what they're running from, they actually need to be turning around and run to.
Right.
And so I love hearing all the different stories, and yours just really struck me, like all the different things, the health crisis, the trip you took to, where was it? Hawaii. Yes. All the different things. So I would love for you to walk me back through that. Cause I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
You and I were talking about a lot of different things. Your whatever you feel comfortable talking through, or whatever you feel led to share. This is our space to do that. And don't worry about the camera or anything like that. Hey, you look good. But I really want you to just share with me again, like what your journey has been like. I know you live in Pella there, but but you had a story before that.
Right.
And you can start with who you are now, the person you are now, your business, how all that unfolded. Just tell me.
Just like, well, I grew up in Sioux City. My dad died when I was 5. My mom went through a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. And her world was just flipped upside down, and ours too. But I was so young that I don't remember the flipping process. I just remember the aftermath. And so with that, I grew up with a lot of insecurities. And at the time, like when mom went through all of that,
No, just in case it skips over the mic.
Yeah. So at the time, like the church that mom and dad had gone to, in the middle of everything falling apart, they blamed her, like saying that God was punishing her in some way, and they kicked her out. Like, so all of these things that were happening to my mom at no fault of her own, they're like, well, you're being punished for something and we don't know what, and you can't be a good influence, so you're not welcome here anymore. And she was kicked out. So I grew up not knowing God. And much later, it's because mom didn't trust men, and she didn't trust, like, she was angry with God. She said that later. So I didn't know if she believed or didn't believe. I didn't really start learning more about God until I was 16. And even then I started going to church so I didn't get in trouble. It was less about God and more about surrounding myself with people who weren't troublemakers.
Yeah.
And thankfully God led me to a community where they weren't really troublemakers, but I know that could have been a different story as well. But I would say the first 10 years of my walk with God, it was more of a desperate hope that he existed than a certainty. I wanted him to be true, but when reading the Bible, it would be so grand or so obscure at times that I'd be like, how can this possibly be true? But I want it to be. And so sometimes I would stubbornly cling to, yes, I'm going to believe this, but I wasn't confident in it. And then there was a night when something traumatic happened to my friend and I, and everything that led us to safety that night, it was like God's hand walking us through, the house shifting, and making it so our door couldn't lock. The neighbors, like, not locking their door that night so that their daughter could come in first thing in the morning. Like so many things led us to safety that it was just like, okay, like, God, like, you are real. Like, you are real, you are interactive. And so, like, that was when I was 26. So I'd say from 16 to 26, God slowly started shifting this. I grew up very much insecure and making myself smaller and feeling like I'm a burden to everybody. And as a teenager, I was a compulsive liar. And then God, that was the first sin I ever begged for God to rescue me from. I didn't know how to stop until one day I got in trouble with the law with it. And it was like, okay, I'm going to stop. And I became radically honest in a very uncomfortable way. So the few friends that I have, how am I doing this now? Like, what can I do better? And they stuck around. So my best friend to this day, like, she stuck through my very awkward times. But I learned honesty and transparency then, and I've since learned, boundaries and subtleties. But I grew a love for transparency in that 10-year time period. But a lot of it was wrestling, like with, why do I believe this? And being willing for constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And that is very uncomfortable to be told you're doing something that's hurtful or that's wrong, or that, whether it's in a job or your personal life or whatever. But I also know that I grew up, my family is very blunt. And very in your face. And so if you don't speak bluntly and in your face, I don't pick up on subtleties. Do not sugarcoat a way around something. Like, if you're like, well, I guess it's time to go, I'll be like, yeah, but what about this? And I'll just keep talking. I like, please don't be subtle with me. Tell me, like.
And so I have to say, Andrea, you got to go. Girl, you got to go.
Right. Yeah, that's all I got to say. And I'll be like, all right, that's it.
My goodness.
And so, and even now, like, at first I used to be like, I would receive it, but it would still hurt. And I'd have to sit there and mindset my way through. Were they saying this for a boundary, or were they saying this because they don't like me? Because I grew up believing nobody liked me and I had pity friends.
Wow.
And maybe sometimes I did, but that's not really the point. Like, the point was, like, God was doing this work, and, like, who are you? Like, and valuing. It's like the difference between belonging and fitting in, right? Like, they're opposites. To fit in, you have to change yourself to fit into a community, and you're constantly striving to appease and be approved of. Whereas when you belong, you get to come authentically as yourself. And maybe that's why meeting with you was so easy because it's like, I got to just be me. Like,
Yes.
you know, and I got to hear your story and you got to just be you. And there's no change. There's fascination and love for that journey.
Oh,
And so that's like, I would say those 10 years was learning. What does it mean to fit in? What does it mean to belong? And I didn't have the words in that journey. That's hindsight, right? Like, but like at the time, it was like, this community feels good. This community doesn't. Why?
Yeah.
You know, I don't like how I feel here, but you know what? I feel good here. Like, let's lean into this more, but why? And then there's a lot of patience as I would second guess the love that as we look, well, why do you love me? Well, because you're you. Well, what does that mean? Like, I don't know what that means.
What about me?
Like, I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to beg for compliments here, but like really my security was just so low.
Talk to me more about that.
Um,
What happened to where when you were younger, at what age did it start where you had that low self?
my entire life. Like, so like my dad, um, so it's like the lifetime. My brothers and I used to joke that it was like a Lifetime movie that didn't end, and it finally there's no more drama in my life, like which is great. But I mean, it was my mom had my grandpa died of cancer, and my mom got cancer in the middle of finding out my dad was having affairs and was abusive in the middle of them going through a divorce. And this is the 80s before like abuse and stuff like was really like stigmatized the way it is. And like now, you know, like you have like firm boundaries, but she still thought she could save him. So she still loved my dad and was like, let me get you help. Well, in the middle of that, he killed himself.
Wow.
So like this and then the church kicked her out. Like, so, and he was a leader in this church as well. Like, and so it was this 2-year time period where everything shifted. Well, then my mom, you know, who has a lot of health issues too. And for a long time, she was labeled a hypochondriac, but she actually had a lot of autoimmune, which again, that was in a time when they didn't know much about autoimmune diseases. So there was a lot of like, she comes from a family of like, she was a nurse. My aunt is a nurse. My other aunt is a doctor. My grandpa was a doctor. So there was a lot of self-medication and there was a lot of battles that she was going on. And in the middle of that too, in the middle of all of that, somebody broke in and attacked my mom as well. And while he got caught and during his sentencing time period, I don't know how long it was. I was 3, you know, maybe 4. In that 2-year time period, but he hired somebody to kill our family. So we actually went into hiding for like 10 months in this tiny town in South Dakota, during the trial, which is when my dad killed himself. And then we moved to Sioux City, where my aunt and my grandma were, and then they helped raise us. So like, it was an insane couple of years. Well, then I was a daddy's girl, like, you know, like, and so like all for me, I had very uncomfortable boundaries with men, you know, like, and trying to seek approval. And my mom couldn't handle me. My aunt couldn't handle me. My mom didn't have the ability to discipline us because she just was so depressed, so down. Her life was spinning. So like we grew up without a lot of discipline and without a lot of boundaries. So as a teenager, when I started getting in trouble, people would be like, well, you know, like not to do this. And I'm like, but I don't. Like, I would get in trouble for things I didn't know why I was getting in trouble for, because we were always allowed to debate and debate wouldn't really be, it was manipulation. Like, let's call it for what it was, but I didn't know it was wrong. Like, cause to me, it was just like, well, we're having a discussion.
Right.
So like, this is a thing in my marriage, like is too, like, well, can we have a discussion? He's like, well, will you still accept my answer? Like if we have the discussion, because just because we have the discussion doesn't mean
you're going to change your mind.
You're going to change your mind. And I'm like, that's fine. I'll just like, as long as you are okay with me going away and pouting for a little bit. Like,
no, the discussion has to end with me getting what I want, right?
But no, and that's actually like, that's the hard part because I love my husband. He is a people pleaser and I'm a bulldozer. You like, and I'm like, honey, like sometimes my feelings have to get hurt and that's okay. I have big dreams and I am a visionary and sometimes it's irrational and not a good idea. And it's okay to say no. Like, it's okay to have boundaries. Like, and that's, we've been married going on 13 years now.
Congratulations.
So that's been an interesting dynamic as we've communicated through that. Like, and some of our biggest miscommunications is no, like, it's okay. Like, have your opinion, or me holding myself back. Like, I want him to lead, but I have to allow him to lead.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, Andrea, like right now he doesn't want to hurt your feelings and you know, he's not going to like this. So don't ask, you know, like you're like,
that self-awareness that says, I don't need to go here.
Right. But then sometimes I need accountability and I'm going to ask anyway, because I really want it. And he still needs to be brave enough to say no. Like, it's been fascinating conversations, and we're in a good spot. Like we've learned a lot about this over the years. But so anyway, that's like the beginning. So then my I had friends in elementary school, but I was a traumatized child who was very insecure and had inappropriate boundaries and wasn't disciplined and was probably like, I probably would not allow my friends to hang out with the little girl that I was because I was rebellious and got into trouble and would suggest all the inappropriate things. Like, so I'm like, I understand the stigma that I got growing up, but it doesn't make it easier as the bullying started, as the, whatever. So a lot of my insecurities came from that and from actions of my own.
Yeah.
But it took me a while before I could, like, so when I was 14, I ran away and ended up getting put into a home for troubled youth. And I lived in that home for 18 months. And it was there that I started learning discipline and respect for authority and learning what right from wrong was. And I had so many essays on manipulation and like just different things. I'm like, I don't know why this is wrong. And they're like, yeah, you do. And I'm like, I don't like, but that very process, even though I felt like it was unfair at the time, was actually teaching me what I never had actually learned. So to me, like, I'm really grateful for that time period in the home. And then graduating from that and knowing that I cannot go back to the community I had before. I have to find a different community. And then my brother and I, there was a turning point. Like, I was there for 18 months. And for, I would say the first 8 months, I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And I was what they would call fronting the program. I was just doing the things to get through. And they called me out on that. And at one point in time, I ran away and I jumped off a bridge and I broke my leg. And I remember laying at the bottom of that creek thinking something's got to be different. That this cannot, because like when you went into this home, you only heard of two things. You heard of girls getting sent to other homes, like more strict, more behavioral places, or going to prison someday. Like, you didn't hear success stories. You never heard them. So when I was actually put in this home, I thought my life was over. I thought I was just doomed for prison or for some worse life. And so 8 months in, I jumped off this bridge and I'm like, no, there's got to be something different. And I ended up graduating the program months later, like, and it was like, that's when I started really processing. Well, what also happened is I was the black sheep and my brother, I have two brothers and he's my oldest one, didn't want anything to do with me before because I was too embarrassing to him, but I idolized him. And it was at that night, he actually had heard that a young girl, he knew that I had run away. He knew that I was in the neighborhood and he had heard that a young girl jumped off a bridge, but he did not hear whether I lived or died. And mom didn't know that Nathan knew what had happened. So he spent the entire night thinking that I was dead. And he's incredibly dyslexic, didn't know it at the time, but he spent all night writing me a letter. I still have this letter and just saying, I just care that you have a happy life. And he couldn't yet say, I love you, because that wasn't his ability at this time. But over and over, he's like, I like you a lot and I just want you to be happy and I want you to get better. And our relationship, like both of my brothers, like we're all three of us are best friends. Like, but I mean, he taught me how to drive, both of them, and we would drive until 2 o'clock in the morning when that was allowed. We like talking about psychology. He now has his doctorate in psychology, and I love mindset work. Like, like we love to. Why do we think this way? Why do we feel this way? Well, and even whenever we've been single as adults, we've lived together. Nathan and I have. And like when I was in my years of really deep depression, to barely get off the couch, he'd literally come and lay on top of me and be like, let's go for a walk. And I'd be like, no, I just want to lay here. He's like, okay, this is comfortable. And he'd make it so uncomfortable for me until I'd get up and give in. We went to the same college and he'd hear that I'd have a bad day and he'd drop what he was doing and he'd come and take me to coffee or, like he was my security net for a very long time. Nobody knows me better than him. And so, it was in college when like I met my best friend that I have, who I've had the longest. I've known her since I was 16. So she saw me through a lot of my compulsive lying years. I was still walking with a limp after breaking my leg. So like, she had met me maybe a year after that and I had graduated the program, but not long after that. So I was still very much in my like beginning of turning my life around. That was, I would say that was my first big pivotal shift. I didn't know God yet, but I can, in hindsight, clearly see God's hand in that night, in that day.
For you,
15, I think 15. It was May.
After you graduated the program, you were 15.
Well, let's see. Let me think. I jumped May of 99 and I was born in 83, but my birthday is in September. So I was 15 and I graduated that fall. So I graduated when I was 16. So yeah.
Shout out to the 80s babies.
I
Me
know,
too.
right? Yeah. I used to not like the 80s. Now I'm like, yeah.
I love the 80s.
We're starting to, like some of the outfits, we're starting to shift into the 90s. I'm like, stay where you're at. It's good right now. It's good.
The 80s and 90s is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that's where everybody, if they had a choice, they would be there. Now, some teenagers and young adults want to go back to the early 2000s.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I know.
It'll happen.
I know.
I'm just enjoying the flair that we're in right now.
Yes.
But and especially the hair. Like it's
yeah.
not extreme 80s crazy hair, but some of the better fashions of it are coming back. And I didn't realize like that my face shape and my hair is actually really good for that. Like I've never like I grew up a tomboy. I didn't know how to do my hair and I'm like, oh, I actually like some of this is actually really good for my curly hair.
Yeah. Yes.
So in college is when I started. My first friend when I was 16 I met. And I had some other really good friends, but they were, you have friends for you have friends for a weekend, friends for a season, and friends for life.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Like, and so like the weekend is like you go to an event, you instantly connect with somebody, and it's a great, there's no falling out. It's just like this is a great weekend retreat, school season, whatever, like friendship. And then you have the season, you have high school, you have college, you have these different seasons. And more often than not, they become acquaintances. Like it's, and I mean, some of them you might have big falling outs, but the majority of them, it's just life changes and you shift apart and there's no animosity. It's just life and they become acquaintances. Okay, that's fine. And then you have friends for life. So Jenny became a friend for life. The rest of my friends in that season were season friends, which is fine. In college, I then met four more really close friends who became incredibly close. And they taught me, one of them was a girl, she's the one that lives in Lincoln. And then the other two were three guys. And still, like to this day, like they I would say they know me almost as well as my brother does. And so like they're my safety net of like when I am having a really bad day and I can't pull myself out of whatever feelings I'm at. I can text any one of these five people and be like, okay, this is my day. I need you to tell me something. I don't even have to say much. I'm just like, I'm having a sucky day and I need you to help me out. And they know what to say.
That's so good.
And so, but it was then that, things started to shift again. And all of these friends believed in God. So like, it was where my belief at the time was more of desperate hope that he existed. They believed. And so they would challenge me in different ways. But I wasn't regularly going to a church and a lot of the churches that I went to, not that they weren't good for people, they just weren't good for me in that time.
Wow.
There wasn't accountability or I didn't know how to lean into that accountability or trust it. And I don't think people realized that I was drowning in the ways that I was drowning because they were big enough that it was big enough churches that they couldn't get close enough to realize where I was at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then when I was attacked, somebody broke into my apartment, attacked my roommate and I. We survived that. Like that was the night that God really was like, I am here. Like this, like I am real. I saved you. And it was that like I saw my mom's life change for the worse after hers. And I was like, I'm not moving. I'm going to, at the time, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was very overweight. And I'm like, okay, I learned how to cook. I got into self-defense training. I started working out. I aggressively was learning how to take better care of myself. And then eventually it became less aggressive and less of an obsession. But at the time, one of my friends from college became an idol to where I would go to him instead of the God because I worked overnights and he lived in Arizona. And so I would call him when I would have my clients to bed and I would walk through all the traumatic things that would happen. And so I knew we were going to get married. And he's like, Andrea, I'm 99% sure that we're not going to get married. And like, I believe this for like 5 years. I'm like, but my friend in Lincoln, she's like, Andrea, he's not yours. Like, I don't want to hear you talk about him. Like, he is going to have a wife someday and you're going to have a husband, and you are dishonoring those future relationships the way that you are obsessing about him right now. So I want you to pray for his wife and for your husband, and not that you are his wife.
Wow.
If God makes you his wife someday, that's up to God. But you don't know that yet, and he is not yours.
And how did your heart receive that?
I was grumpy about it. Like, but then the next time I was working an overnight, I thought about it and I'm like, fine, I'll pray. And at first it was very cookie cutter, bless her heart, bless her socks off, whatever. And then I was like realizing how grumpy I was. I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, I need you to intercede. I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to pray well. I've never really been taught. And I know that this is very, very, my heart's not in it. So I don't even know how the rest of the night passed. Like, I know that I could not stop praying that night. And I know that God took like some of the most uncomfortable words because of my history with abuse and stuff like that, like intimacy. Like it is a beautiful word for love. At the time, it made me queasy. And God brought me to talking about what intimate love felt like. And at first I was praying for Josiah and his future wife, and that they could know an intimate love. And I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, why? And then it was just like, but like, what does that mean? And so then that's like, I felt God really working on my heart. And I was a smoker at the time. And I remember I was sitting down outside. It's probably 3 o'clock in the morning at this point in time. And the task I had was this really, I had to change out these med sheets for clients. And so it's something that you need to focus on. Other, like, you can make big mistakes, and it's not, you can't mess up. Like, and so every month you have to change out. They're called March. You had to change them out. And so I'm trying to pray and focus on this, and I can't do it. So I'm like, okay, God, I'm just going to sit outside. I'm smoking a cigarette. And while I'm talking, I feel like God is actually talking to me. And I'm like, Andrea, I can't believe you're smoking a cigarette right now while God is talking to you. So I put out my cigarette and I'm like, God, I have this stuff I need to do. I have to start getting clients up in like an hour. I have to finish up these Mars, but I don't feel like we're done talking. So you tell me when I can get back to work. Because you know what I have to do and you know what you have to say. So you tell me when I can get back to work. And so I went and sat on a porch of one of my clients' apartments, and it was like the Bible verse, like, be still and know that I am God. Like, I've read it before. And for me, I don't love cookie cutter Bible verses. Like I really don't, because they're just so cliche and it takes away the power of them. Like, and so I had only ever heard that verse as that. Like, there was no personal connection to it. But I just remember my mind was racing and God was asking me to be still. And I just kept hearing, just be still, be still. And then I would try to breathe, and then my mind would race again. And it just was like this, almost like this, when you shush your baby. I just heard God go, be still. Just be still. And eventually God was pouring out, like, once I was still, like, what the attributes of God, just love and grace and hope and just all of this. Every time I would breathe, another affirmation would come in of who he is. And then and know that I am God. And it's just like goosebumps. It's like that perfect fall morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, everybody's sleeping. It's the perfect breeze. It's the perfect smell outside. Like I had goosebumps. And then it was like, okay, it's time to get back to work. And this was probably about 3 months after the attack. And at the time I had not been able to sleep through the night since then, and I had also not been able to cry. And I would say this was also about, God had used Josiah to break through some of my barriers. And I think a couple weeks prior, like, I was able to cry with some of the digging that Josiah had done. But then that led to my crush being more intense. And that led to then my confrontation with my friend saying, hey, he's not yours. And that led to this. And then it was the first, like, I remember I could not wait to go to bed every night to pray, because I just felt like God is here and he is listening. And I would pray until I would fall asleep, and I would have the best sleep. And I don't remember how long that lasted, but it was the most beautiful time of my life, I think, like, of just really feeling God intimately. But it was in this time that another friend of mine kept inviting me to church. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And he's like, Andrea, come, just come. And he kept inviting me to this Bible study on idolatry. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And he's like, Andrea, like, if you were to go to a doctor, like, I'm a sinner. I kept thinking he was judging me. He's like, Andrea, I'm a sinner too. And I'm going because I also need this. It's like going to a doctor. Like, it's like medicine.
Yeah.
Like it's, just come. And it was at that point in time that I realized that Josiah had become an idol, and I had become an idol to him. And he had no desire to seek out a wife because he had plenty of friends that he could uplift and take care of. And he's like, I'm not going to seek that out if I am filling this need, like, here. And so we didn't end up talking for like 7 months with his discipline. I didn't have the discipline to stay away from that long, but he's the one that's like, no, we're not going to talk. And in that time, God led me into this church. And I was working overnights at the time. So like I would get off at 8 in the morning and church wouldn't start until 10. And I would sleep through the service every time. And they all knew it. Like like they're all dressed in their Sunday best. And here I am in my work scrubs, and I'm probably stinky and probably like my friend would come and wake me up from my car. So I would sleep in my car in the parking lot until church began. I'd go to service. I'd stay awake until they get into congregational prayer, which is like a 10-minute long prayer. I'd fall asleep and try to stay awake through the rest of the service. And then they often had a meal afterwards. And I was sucked into the community before I was sucked into the faith. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
By the time I stopped working overnights and stopped falling asleep in church, by then I belonged there. And now I'm like, oh, what are you actually saying? What are you actually teaching? Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense.
I'm up now. I paid attention now. So was this the church that you really just dug in and got into your faith and your relationship with God?
Yep. And we had a huge singles community. And so as I'm in therapy and dealing with, I realized as I was like over the next couple of years, as I was dealing with things, I hadn't dealt with a lot of my childhood trauma. So the depression would come back randomly. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to get past this if I don't dive deeper into what actually happened when I was younger, because I had no emotional attachment to that. I could talk about it, like telling somebody about a storybook, right? But no, like my body remembers, and there are things. And so I chose over the next like year and a half to really dive into therapy with both of the pastors and with this Christian therapist. And all of these friends, like there were times that I don't know, there was a season where I couldn't go home and sleep, and I don't know why I wouldn't go into my apartment, but I wouldn't. And so I would sleep in my car, and to be safe, I would park in front of my friend's house. And it was, there were 3 guys from the church. They were all single, living together, and they would get home from delivering a pizza and be like, Andrea, what are you doing? Just come sleep on the couch. And then they'd get up in the morning. Oh, Andrea slept on our couch again. Do you want coffee? Let's do devotions. It was just like, there was this safety net where they wouldn't let me drown in my sorrow.
Yeah.
They knew that I was wrestling with God, and they were there. And I had at this point in time, not really, I mean, I had my friends from college, but like these guys were, my friends from college were friends. These guys were set as leaders and showing me what men who lead in a faith look like.
Yeah, your brothers in Christ.
Yeah. And not that Josiah and David couldn't be that. But that wasn't their place at the time. Their place was something different. And so I grew up with 3 women raising me. I grew up with three very liberal women raising me. And I loved them very dearly, but I didn't know what a functional relationship looked like. What I knew was the dysfunction that was my mom and my dad. And so it was beautiful to witness sinners loving each other through that, through accountability and through confrontation in a beautiful way. And so and to have somebody else that could take the wheel, because I'm a bull with a red cape, right? I really am. Don't tell me what to do, but God taught me to listen anyway. And they taught me how to communicate. Listen, I don't want to listen to you. I need you to tell me what to do anyway. And don't let me turn you down. And they did. And so not just these single guys, but both of my pastors also came along on this journey. Well, then I ended up moving to Pella because found out that the person that had attacked my roommate and he was in prison, but he had family members that I never actually moved apartments. And their family knew where I lived. And I found out from a cousin of his that they were angry. They blamed me for him going to prison because I had testified against him. And so I was told that I was not safe where I was at. So I stayed with my pastor for a while until we were figuring out. He got a calling to a church in Pella. And at the time I was just going to move neighborhoods. But then, and it was a fluke, like somebody, was asking my roommate, hey, I haven't seen your roommate in a while. Where is she? And the only thing she could tell me was that he was darker complected. The guy that attacked me was Native American, and was that he was darker complected. No, he was a construction worker that was super tan, and somebody was trying to set us up on a date. And so he was kept waiting for me to come home. But she didn't know that. We didn't know that. And so it was enough to spook me to be willing to look to move someplace else. So I planned on moving to Pella just for a season until this settled. And then I was going to move back because my heart home, my accountability, everybody that I love was here in Sioux Falls. And in this process, I did a lot of talking to people and a lot of talking to God. So one night I had to work the next day, but I'm like, God, the only time I can talk to you is in the middle of the night. So you're the giver of rest. if I stay up all night to talk to you, please let me function the next day without dying.
So dramatic.
Well, I mean, it's like when I took care of people with disabilities. So
Yeah.
I had to be not just functional, but like they needed me to be functioning. And so I'm like, give me the rest that I need, but let me talk to you. And so my pastors gave me some scripture to pray on and look over. Like, so there were two churches. One was a church plant in Sioux Falls, and the mother church that did the planting was this little tiny church 17 miles outside of Sioux Falls. And I loved going out there because my phone didn't work. Like, so my distraction, my sin, all this stuff. So I would go out there and just sit with God. And more often than not, Reverend Barnes would come and find me. He'd like, hey, come and sleep on our couch, or they had a guest room. Tim, sleep, or come eat dinner with us, or like, just leave me be. I'm trying to like be here, but like they wouldn't let me. And I remember like at the time I was chasing sin I shouldn't be chasing, and they knew this, and he would hold me accountable. And then like, and I was also a smoker, but yet his 4-year-old would come out and talk to me while I'm smoking on a cigarette, or after I had just gone and chased the sin that I shouldn't be. And I'm like, how are you letting your children around me? I don't like, and I felt so ashamed and so humbled that they continued to love me even though I was this vile human being in my eyes, you know. So anyway, this night I'm out in Hills, and their church, it's such a small town that they leave it unlocked like 24/7. So I told Reverend Barnes, I'm like, please don't come and talk to me. This is what I'm doing, but I'm coming here. So my phone doesn't work. And also because it's really peaceful in the middle of the night in this chapel. So I just spent the night laying on the not the podium, the stage, whatever in the front. And just journaling, praying, reading. And at the end of it, I heard God say, like, well, what do you want to do? You want to move or do you want to stay? Like, make your decision. As long as you're seeking to honor me, like, I'm going to bless you, but like, own your choice. And I'm like, okay, what do I want? And I was ready for a change. Despite the fact that I had all the people that I loved here, I was ready for a change. I had kind of dug myself a devil's playground with sin, and I needed to get away from it for a while. And everybody's argument was like, well, your sin's going to follow you. And I'm like, I'm aware, but I need a break from this playground, like right now. Like I need something different. And like, I knew that I wanted, if I was going to move, I wanted to move someplace where somebody knew me, knew my story, that I didn't have to rehash over and over again. So when Reverend Barnes accepted the calling, I came to Pella. Well, and so then I told God, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to Pella. I want a job outside of this field because I was burnt out. And so I went there and I applied at a couple jobs, and one was at a doctor's office for a reception. I had no qualifications for it. And I got a call 2 hours later and got the job. And I'm like, okay. So I had to work that weekend. So I went back to Sioux Falls, and then I drove back to Pella on Monday. I'm like, okay, I want a 2-bedroom apartment, and I want it within this price bracket. And within a day, I find an apartment and they accept.
Wow.
And I moved 2 weeks later. It was very sudden.
You know what this reminds me of? And I don't mean to cut you off, but I was visiting with a young lady once a few years ago, and she was really in between decisions. She was like, I don't know what I should do. She was asking me what she should do. And I was asking her if she had prayed. She's like, yeah, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything or anything like that. And the scripture that came to my mind was about all things working together for the good. And I was like, so if you make a decision and it doesn't happen to be the right one, it's still going to work out. If you make a decision that happens to be the right choice for you at that time, praise God.
Right.
But if it's not, it's still going to work out. So sometimes people are so like, I need it written in the sky, or I need somebody to come along and roll down the window and say, he said yes.
Well, and I honestly think it's less of about the decision and more about the heart, because at the time I wasn't sure. And I felt God saying, like, own this decision. But like very recently, like I'm a photographer, and I predominantly shoot outdoors. But I know that at some point in time I would love to get a studio, because I live in Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, I don't shoot a lot in the wintertime because I live in Iowa. That's too cold. That said, there was an amazing studio, like space that would have been a beautiful studio that came up recently, and I wanted it. And it felt like the lady she's like, it feels like an answer to prayer, you asking at this time. And I'm like, okay, like, am I supposed to have the studio? I really, really wanted it. But so I asked my husband and I told him I won't do this without your approval. Like I want it to feel right. Like I don't want us, like I'm still paying off some business debt. Like, and I'm like, it needs to feel right for both of us. And I kept thinking, is this an answer from prayer? Is this not? And so I often think about like, well, what do you want to do? Are you going to honor God? Well, yeah, I would honor God with either decision, but it wasn't that simple this time.
Yeah.
Like it was, if I choose to go with the studio, am I choosing shiny object syndrome? I'm going to make it work because I really want it, or because I am taking a leap of faith and trusting God. And I couldn't tell the difference.
So then what?
Well, we pray about it. But then it's like my prayer, like I decided I'm going to have my husband come and look at this space too. And the realtor had her husband come too, because he's the one doing all the construction and stuff in there. And he's the one, like both of our husbands are the same people in our, like we're the shiny object syndrome people and they're the realists. So we had our realist husbands come to this meeting. And on the way, I'm like, okay, Lord, like, please let me know, like I want this to feel right. And it needs like, and I don't know what that means. Like, and so we looked at it, like there's a lot of daydreaming. Her and I are very good at daydreaming together. We were bringing our husbands along, and her husband's very much a pragmatist. And the price ended up, she told me a price that she thought it was, and it's actually $300 more a month than what she had said. And so after going through everything, Kirk agreed this would be a great space. We talked about everything that we could do with it. And I'm like, I want it. We're sitting, we go home to talk about it. And he's indulging me. Like when normally he would panic about things, he's indulging me on this. And we're sitting there trying to crunch the numbers. And I realized just to break even with like these very basic things, I'd need to pull in $4,000 a month, adding the studio on. And I look at him and I'm like, this doesn't feel good. Like this would invite stress and chaos and tension into our life right now. And I feel like that would break us. Wow. And he got weepy, like, and he's like, I agree. Like, and very, like, especially with finances, especially with like decisions like this, very rarely do we agree right away on things, And so I'm like, okay, that was God. Like, so it was very different than before where God's saying, make your choice.
Right.
Now it was like, no, who are you honoring? Yourself or me? Like,
right.
And it was really hard to tell the difference.
That is so interesting because when you're at a different stage and a different season in your life, there are going to be opportunities that come up that look right. They feel right, and then when you're walking that path, you're just like, oh, what?
Right.
And I mean, I faced that too, and that's something that we all have to face. Sometimes God will say, yes, I want you to do this. Yes, I want you to do that.
Right.
And sometimes he's just silent.
My grandma, she would call it the red light, green light. Like, is it a green light? Is it a red light or is it a yellow light? Like, and other people talk about closed doors and open windows. And, like we've all heard those type of analogies, but this one was like, no, like I would be beating my head to make this work. Could it work? Could he bless me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he could. But I don't think he would bless me with the type of feelings that were there.
Like, right. And that's that spirit inside that says, okay, as you're talking through this, as you're walking through this, there's see, God is not the author of confusion. Right. If you're unsettled and both of you are feeling something and you're like, well, this doesn't feel right. And he's just like, I'm glad you said that.
Well, and part of that too is come back to the way my husband and I are very different in the sense of I'm the bull with the red cape.
Yeah.
And he's very much the people pleaser. He wants to give me the world. He believes in my business and everything that I'm doing. He is my number one supporter, but he also does not like debt. He's also in a season of of high stress. He's also very, like, would he try if I pushed hard to make it happen? Yes, he would. He would have given in if I pushed hard enough. Would that be what God would want me to do? Would that be honoring my husband when I know that this would be leading him down more stress and worry? No, that wouldn't be honoring him.
Yeah.
And again, that's hindsight. I didn't think about that in the moment. I just like, well, this feels sucky. But like all of it still, it's like kind of full circle there. So that's what brought me to Pella. So in choosing, okay, I want to go. And then I met my husband a month later and we were married 8 months later. And so,
Wow.
and I was 29. Like, I remember when I was in my early 20s, I'm like, I want to be married and have kids by the time I'm 30. And then I'm 25, 26. All right, I'm gonna be married by then. And then 27, 28, I'm like, can I at least know who it is? Like, can I at least know that this is gonna happen? And
Right?
then I met my husband 2 weeks after my birthday. Um, and then we were married a months before my birthday. Like, so we
Wow.
met and married in that same year. And
And here y'all are, almost 13 years
13
later.
years later.
Wow.
I forget the exact verse, but our wedding verse was from Job. It was at the very end where basically Joe was like, "Okay, God, you knew what you were doing all along."
After God went off on her.
Shut up, God! You obviously knew what you were doing because both of us had tried. Like Kirk was 33 when we met. Like so, both of us had tried to take it into our own hands at different points in time, and it was at the point where we both had said, "Okay, I'm done for now," and then we met. And you've heard people say that before, but yeah, like I mean, so then when we saw that verse, we're like, "Oh, that's kind of fitting." Like,
Yes, that surrender, like, okay,
yep,
all right.
yep.
Wow. So now, so you've walked through, you moved to Pella, you changed professions because you're just burnt out and all that.
Well,
Or what
but I
happened?
changed that. Like, so I worked for a doctor's office. It was an eye clinic. It wasn't a very ethical eye clinic, and so I only worked there for about 5 months. And then I had a place that I used to work at in Sioux City. He there the I don't he I forget what his role was at the place in Sioux City, but it was kind of a higher up role. He saw that I lived in the area, like the business is in Ankeny, but he saw that I lived in the area, and he's like, Andrea, you should come and apply for this. So I ended up working with people with disabilities for another 3 years with this company. Um, and the community services. So it was a really fun position where my favorite parts of my old jobs was taking people to appointments and shopping and concerts and stuff. And that's all this position was. So no ADLs, no changing diapers. Like it was all community service stuff, which was my favorite. Like, so I really enjoyed it. Um, but then when we were trying to get pregnant, I did a lot of driving. And especially I lived in Pella and most of my clients were in the Des Moines area. So I would be driving to Des Moines every day. And I'm like, when I'm pregnant, I don't want to be doing that. So there came an opportunity. I started volunteering at this yogurt shop that was a for-profit to support a nonprofit. So Many Hands for Haiti is based out of Pella, and they had um, the Mango Tree, which was a yogurt shop, and so started volunteering. Like they had one manager, and everybody else was volunteers. Liz and I became really good friends through this volunteer thing, and then they were looking for an admin assistant for the Many Hands office. And she's like, you should apply. And I'm like, I have no qualifications. She's like, you should apply. So I applied. And he's like, well, what about marketing? Do you have any marketing experience? I'm like, well, I kind of know Photoshop because I took a class a couple classes in college, but it was film, and I had kind of taught myself Photoshop a little bit. So when I say kind of, like, it was very bare bones. That was my marketing experience.
Uh-huh.
And he hired me for the admin and marketing assistant, but there was no marketing manager, and he thought I would do a lot more with marketing. Like, and so for the first year, I was completely inequipped. I could not start my day without praying to God to help me because I had no idea what I was doing. And Tim rapidly saw that I was not equipped for this. And he got a marketing manager. And over the course of I was with them for almost 4 years. And in that time, like Rob had trained me a lot in editing. Like I went to Haiti 3 times. Well, my last time was actually after I had quit. But with that is I would take a lot of they would have volunteers like mission teams that would go down. They'd take the sponsor like children's photos. I'd have to make them marketable. Like the mission teams, like in getting the blonde and stuff. Like he taught me how to edit skin tones and stuff. So a lot of the things that I didn't know how to do, I learned how to do. I learned basic graphic design, very basic. I'm not a graphic designer at all, but if something looks pretty, I can put it together and then get a better feel. And then I throw it to some of my marketing people and be like, okay, like finish it up for me. Like, so I learned quite a bit through that. And marketing itself. And I had started picking up a camera again in this season. Uh, I first used my mom's camera and I had a son. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, my son's daycare was closing. So knowing that I would need to find another daycare and doing the math, If I had both kids in daycare, I'd only take home $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, is this worth my time away?
Girl.
And it's not. So, but I still needed a job because I still had student debt that I was paying on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, God, I had a part-time job at a restaurant that I'm like, okay, well, this would be enough to make my payments on my student loans. Okay, like this is, I'll put many hands and do this evening, like serving job. No big deal. I put many hands, and then a week later, I find out that the restaurant was closing.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So we had talked a while ago about me opening a daycare someday, like maybe, like, and so I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And so I opened a daycare. I was still pregnant with my daughter. Don't ever open a daycare when you're pregnant. That's not a decision.
Shit. I would never open a daycare, and I have a lot of children.
Like, I actually am really grateful for that season. Like, there were hard times, but like I loved it. Because like I became like I learned how to make sourdough. Like I love to cook. I do all these recipes. I could bless people. Well, you're having a bad day. Well, I'm already making this meal. Let me double batch it and bring you some. Like, like I was able to pour into people because
Mhm.
the kids entertained each other. There were hard things for sure, but like my oldest kid was 6 months. The oldest daycare kid was 6 months older than my son.
Mhm.
So it was when a couple times I would babysit some of these kids that were older and I wouldn't know what to do with them because I didn't have those kids yet, right? Like so I didn't have the toys for them. I didn't have those personalities yet. I hadn't learned how to work with them. So as long as I started it when my son was 2, and so like my oldest kid at the time then was like 2.5 or 3, and I'm like, okay, like, and then as they grew and stuff. So it ended up working out really well. And then and so then I ran the daycare like 2020, and then or 2019, and then 2020 is when I started my photography business kind of by accident. Like a friend asked me to donate a session to a fundraiser she was doing. And then she's like, well, do you have a photography name? And I'm like, well, no, but I guess if I want to start a business, I could start a business. So I came up with a name and I reached out to my old marketing manager. I'm like, can you make me a logo? And he made me a logo. And then that was the same year that my friend Liz was getting married. She was a missionary down in Haiti and she was getting married in Haiti. And this is COVID. Like, so hardly anybody could go. So that she was getting married in November. And so she asked if I could go. And I asked, that was the year that we gave up all dates, all presents, like any extra expense, because we're like, if we are dedicated for 1 year, we can get rid of all of this like student debt. So that was our goal that year. And so, and we were well on our way, like, because we started in January, we would be done by December with this goal. And we were in August is when, we found out that she was getting married and she asked if I could go. So I asked my husband, he's like, well, if you pay for it with photography, you can go. I'm like, okay. Well, I was in a mom group and they found out that I started doing this because of that donated session I donated, and I ended up making $2,100, which was enough to go to Haiti and buy a new camera like at the time. And so it was like, okay, I guess here I am. I'm doing it. Like,
look at God
work. And that's how I started my photography business, coinciding with my daycare. And went to Haiti for the last time. Like, oh, I want to go again. It's just not been safe since then. So I really like Liz and her husband and kids are now here, but they want to go back. And so I'm just waiting for it to be safe enough that where it would be comfortable. Because when I go, I want my family to go because none of them have gone. And I'm like, you need to go to where my heart, like, I love Haiti. And so
that would be beautiful.
Yeah. And
so how long did you keep the daycare? And talk to me about your photography business. What's the whole idea behind it? Because I know a lot of photographers, but yours has a really special, like, has grown into something really special, and how you capture women in particular. Talk to me about that.
So I was interested in photography even from college, like, and then I did an internship in Chicago and decided I didn't want to do photography, but it was there is stuff like I didn't realize all the different types of photography, nor did I have confidence. Like my confidence didn't start growing really until I had a daycare. And I could make my own decisions and people weren't criticizing my work. Like, and not that like Many Hands was great. I loved Many Hands, but but I had to grow something on my own. And that taught me a lot when I built the skills of being a housewife and learning how to cook and to be able to bless people and be able to pour into these children and stuff like that. It did a lot for my confidence in this time. Well, so with that, photography, when I started it, it was just your traditional portraits, but I had fallen in love with, there were a few photographers that do like what is known as called storytelling. Is you go in and it's not your traditional, everybody look at the camera and smile. It's like, it's meant to tell stories. And I loved the idea, but I hadn't really learned, I learned conceptually what it was, but not connected with it emotionally yet.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges with daycare is I was sick and I didn't know it. So, after I had my daughter, I started having a lot of issues with my hormones. I ended up having, postpartum hyperthyroidism and postpartum depression and anxiety with her. And then I got on medication for that and it started getting better. And then I started seeing a homeopath, and I had mono and I had Epstein, I had Lyme's disease that they were treating me for. And that really helped. And then there were some thyroid stuff that she was really treating as well. And so I'm like, okay, like this was really helping. And I was with her for over a year, but it was very pricey. Like all the supplements were very pricey. And I'm like, I'm feeling better. I'm gonna stop doing this. And it would be like every other month when I would ovulate. So not even every month, but every other month when I would ovulate, I would get like almost suicidal depressed. Everything in my life would be really good. And then on this day, I would just be incredibly down for no reason. So I started tracking after my daughter. I couldn't have kids anymore. And I would track my period just so that I knew when I was ovulating, I'd be like, okay, Kirk, this is the day that I need to not perform at all today.
Yeah.
And we understood this. And so we would go with it. And so God gave me the foresight or the understanding to know this is hormones and this isn't real. Like it's real in the sense of something physiological is happening, but the emotions aren't real. The emotions are a lie, like is what I would say now, right? And so with that, it started to get more intense. And then especially when I quit taking, I thought, okay, I've been on her stuff. I haven't seen any more progress, but it's been good. So I thought, hey, do I really need these supplements? Did my body heal itself? Let's see. And I went off and it just took a dive. Like the hormones became more erratic. I didn't notice it right away. Like, so I would have deeper depression spells and I would have incredible anxiety. And a lot more short fused, short tempered. The kids were very gracious with me and so were the parents, but like it was something that I started thinking maybe I shouldn't do a daycare anymore because I'm really struggling with this. And I don't want to scar these children if I'm too rough, and I didn't know what was happening. So I ended up letting Amy know that I wanted to close the daycare and gave her, I think she had like 6 months. No, she had more than that. She just was able to find something in a shorter time. And I was preparing for this big hike. So one of my lifelong dreams is a hike on the Appalachian Trail. A couple friends and I were planning on this big hiking trip for 2 weeks in August, and it ended up coinciding. She found something, and so we were going to close the daycare when I went on this trip. And photography was still rapidly growing. It was building a lot in that time as well. And I had planned on homeschooling my son, so I went on this big trip, and then I come home and I had one more small trip up to Sioux Falls for some photography things, but I brought my kids with. So I was going to start Winston's homeschooling when I got back, like the second week of September or whatever. And I get back and I'm like, what if we put him in school? Like, what if, like, because again, we didn't realize how sick I was, but I was so overwhelmed. And I'm like, I don't know if I can run photography and homeschool him and do him justice. Like, I just don't know if I can do that. And I don't want him to be sacrificed in this pursuit. And I'm not ready to give up this. And he's like, he was okay with looking at it for the year and seeing how he liked it. Well, Winston accepted. Like he is such a social butterfly, and the loss of his friends, he loved it. And he did really well. And my daughter struggled. She was not, I think we got her into 3 school, but again, that was only a couple of days a week. And she went from having friends her entire life to even her brother was at school, like full time. And so she really struggled, but like it was good. Well, then that January, so that December, okay, each year, like 20, so I started my business in 2020. I had learned, hey, what if I could learn from somebody that I admired? There was a photographer that I admired just outside of Sioux City. I asked her if she did in-person mentorships, and she's like, yeah. So I went and I learned, and I got better with my lighting. I got better with editing and stuff like that. She taught me some things that, like, she looked at my portfolio and she's like, okay, let's like focus on these areas. Okay, I got that. The next year, I learned about a workshop, like going, and there were 6 photographers that came to learn from a photographer. And so, and that's when I learned more about storytelling and emotion and how to set that up and how to work with people's emotion and tell a little bit more of an authentic story, and also some editing at the time. And so, like, that was in 2022, and that was a fantastic thing. So I had committed every year I'm going to learn from another photographer I admired. So in September, I started like following this photographer in Hawaii and loved her storytelling, her editing, and stuff like that, and was really drawn to her. And then I saw, or then I, so I reached out and I asked if she did in-person mentorships, and she would create a custom package. And at the time, it was the most expensive thing I would have ever invested. And I asked her, 'cause I'm like, she would teach, like, she would take my branding images, teach me about branding, like my business, because I didn't, at this point in time, I was comfortable enough with my editing. I didn't really think I needed to learn more editing at this time. I wanted to learn more about business.
Yeah.
And she was an IPS photographer, which like you have in the photography world, we call it shoot and burn, which is like you pay me $200, $300, $400, $500, and I give you an X amount of digital images. That's a shoot and burn. In the photography world, IPS is in-person sales or in-person service, is where, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk you through this. I'm going to sell you wall art albums. You know, like it's more
kind of like that Arnold Clark type thing.
Yeah. So she also did that, and I was fascinated by it. Like I didn't know much about it, so I wanted to go and learn from her. And when Brooke said I could, I bought the plane ticket and um um paid the deposit to go. But at this point in time, I had, since my daughter, I had done pay like I was very crunchy because my mom over medicating her my whole life. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the essential oils. I'm gonna eat paleo, whole 30, keto, intermittent fast, like I had run a half marathon. And all of this, I found out that I have an autoimmune disease as well, Hashimoto's. And so with some of these extreme things, I was actually putting myself and making myself sicker and putting myself into a flare. And that's when I actually started seeing the homeopath. And so like, it's just kind of been this whole journey where I would try these things and would it work? Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't, but a lot of it was really hard. And if I stuck to it hardcore, it would work. But the moment I slipped slightly, like I would immediately gain this weight back. And I'm like, oh. So I went to the doctor in January. I'm like, listen, at the time I was one of the smallest sizes that I had been in my entire adult life. But I'm like, I'm not, like, I can't budge past this point. I can't budge past this point. So can we, I don't know what's happening. Can you help me? And she's like, well, let's check out let's check out your thyroid. I had another friend who was going to school for sonography, and she knew I had Hashimoto, so she wanted to scan my thyroid because she wanted to see what a normal thyroid would look like versus somebody like I'm struggling with an autoimmune. And she had found these nodules, but she couldn't tell me much about it. She was just learning the scans. So I took them to my doctor as well. I'm like, okay, I'd like help losing weight, but also here's this. I don't know if this is important. And she's like, well, let's get these redone. Like, and let's try things again. So this is in January. Well, the rescan of things, she ended up sending me to an endocrinologist, and not only was it a nodule, but it was hormone producing. So all these erratic emotions that I have been having, I was actually this nodule was producing 10 times the amount of thyroid hormone that you're supposed to have.
Wow.
And so she's like, we need to remove this, but it's not safe to remove it right now because it's producing too much hormones. It would be very dangerous to do surgery right now. So we need to slow down this production. So here's the thing. You're not going to lose weight before you go to Hawaii, but we can get this out and make you feel better. And I'm like, okay. So I start on this medication to slow down the thyroid. We get this surgery scheduled for the end of March. This is January, end of March. I'm first week of April is when I'm leaving to go to Hawaii. And I gained from January to March 45 pounds on this medication. And again, childhood trauma, like a lot
Mhm.
of it was weight related and self-medicating with food and stuff like that. And where I thought in my 10 years of marriage at this point in time, where I thought that I had overcome a lot of these insecurities, they came flooding back. I was like, but not only that, but it was thyroid stuff, right? Like, so your thyroid isn't just your metabolism, but it's also your emotions. It's also your energy. Um, like when you are hypothyroid, you struggle with depression. Like
Mhm.
it's like those kind of hormones. When you're hyper, you struggle with anxiety and things like that. So I went from super hyper to super. So I went from incredible anxiety to incredible depression.
Mm.
Um, so anyway, they then remove that half of my thyroid. They don't put me on thyroid replacement because their hope was that the left side would kick in and start working now that this nodule that had taken over control was gone.
Mhm.
And I am leaving. I have the surgery. 10 days later is when I leave for Hawaii. 3 days before I leave for Hawaii, I get a call from the doctor saying, "Hey, we actually found cancer behind this nodule, and we're going to have to remove the rest of your thyroid." And it's stage 2. Like,
Mm.
and I'm like, I didn't know much. It spread to lymph nodes, but nowhere else in my body. And I'm like, okay. So we got that scheduled for June, and Kirk and I had just gone to a marriage retreat a couple weeks before the surgery, and it really brought intention back, but it brought us the ability to communicate in a way we hadn't really communicated in a long time. And I really think that set us up for this next year and a half. Because one of our fears was what happens, like this medication, which was supposed to help, made things so much worse, and we were kind of in the thick of despair. And
Mhm.
then we find out that we have another surgery. But what if that doesn't work? What, like, we kept waiting for the end of this exhausting, debilitating time period. And we just got hit this news, and I leave for Hawaii 3 days later. And it was like a 5 hour time difference, and it was a week that there were tornadoes. And I had a 5 year old and a 3 year old who wouldn't have been at 7. So the only time I could talk was in the afternoon because every day that I was there, we sunrise and sunset, we were at a photo shoot or I was learning. So the only time I could talk to them was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they were either bedtime or tornadoes. Like, so like
Mm.
God took me to Hawaii without the ability to talk to my family.
Wow.
Uh, and so right after I find out about cancer, so he's really just saying, sit with me, Andrea. And I just like,
There's that be still
I
again.
just like, and I remember one of the shoots was going up to this waterfall and I was so exhausted. And 6 months prior, I had hiked 100 miles in the Appalachian Trail with two of my friends in 12 days carrying a 40-pound pack. And but we walked maybe a mile and a half, not very steep hills, up to this waterfall, carrying 2 cameras and a bottle of water, half a bottle of water, because I didn't think to bring more water than that. Like, and and I'm like, I remember every time like the photographer that I was learning from in this model would stop, I'd catch up to them and then they'd start walking again.
Mm.
And I'd be out of breath and I'd be really struggling. And I was humiliated that I couldn't because again, childhood trauma, like I'm inefficient. I can't keep up. It's my weight. There was so much shame about all this weight that I had gained. And I remember halfway up to the waterfall when I was pausing to take a breath, I'm like, Andrea, you just found out you have cancer and you're still here. You are really sick and you have no energy, but you're still hiking to this waterfall to take pictures. Like, you're not giving up. It's okay that you feel this way. You're not expected to thrive right now. Like, it's okay. Like, you're still here.
And not some people wouldn't have even gone to,
Right.
they would be like, okay, cancel everything.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Well, and Lindsay, she's like, Andrea, come anyway. Like, how are you going to walk women through this journey? At this point in time, I had already started summer before. I started a photo shoot, a session type called Lift Your Soul. It's my version of like woman empowerment or, like 40 over 40 or, whatever. And but I didn't know how to explain it at the time. Like I just knew we had a family friend who was almost 70 at the time when we went on family vacation, who had always wanted a photo session, but she never really knew what that, like she couldn't justify it. And I'm like, well, let's do it. And we took her out on this lake and it was one of my, like, I still to this day, it's one of my favorite sessions, but it was my very first Lift Your Soul session. And so I had this idea, but I didn't have any really emotional connection. Why do I want to do it? I couldn't explain that well. And like I have a learning disability where I have a really hard time with word recall. Like and I'm also ADHD. Like, and just what that means in that the description is, I sometimes have a hard time with language. So when people will be like, well, what is this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know how to describe it. Like if I think about it in organic conversation, it can come. But the moment I'm like the pressure's put on, I like I sit in front of a blank paper. I'm like, I have no idea what I want to say. Um, all that said is I go to Hawaii and she's like, Andrea, come anyway. Swimsuit. I'm like, I just told you I gained 45 pounds. I'm not bringing a swimsuit for you to take my picture on the beach. No, I'm not doing it. Bring it anyway. And I went to Hawaii anyway. And we went to 3 photo shoots and they were all fantastic. And she was so patient. She knew that I was struggling. I mean, the whole time I want to go back just so that I'm not a zombie because I just was really exhausted.
Me with you, girl. I will go.
It was amazing.
I need to do a quick time check. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
All right, cool.
So we end up going and so then we get ready like after the waterfall shoot. Later that day, she sends somebody to my hotel room for hair and makeup because I have my personal branding shoot that night. And my best friend is a hairstylist, so I'd had my hair professionally done, but never makeup. And I was again thyroid. My hair was rapidly falling out. My hair was super thin at the time, and my face was dry and cracky and bloated and stuff like that. And so this hair and makeup artist came to my hotel room, and she is my biggest hype girl. Like she's like like, oh my goodness, your hair is so beautiful. I love what you do. She sees like when she came to my room, I was working on photos. She's like, you took that? That's amazing. And she's so like so much hyping me. That's going to be an amazing experience. Telling me about Hawaii. I had this dress that I was wearing. I couldn't wear a bra, so I had a boob tape, but I didn't know how to boob tape. And she's like, don't worry, girl, I got you. I've done so many weddings. I've done this lots of times. And so she helped me get fully ready and I felt beautiful. And I did not expect, because I knew I was in a season where I was judging myself. I did not expect to be able to love these pictures, but I loved the experience. And I'm like, okay, that's enough for me. I drive over to where we're going to take the pictures, and Lindsay, she does an amazing job. And I feel beautiful. I have a lot of fun at the shoot. I feel beautiful, even though I know I'm not going to like the pictures. Doesn't matter. I had a great experience. I'm getting onto the plane the next day to go home, and she sends me 3 photos from that first, like, and one of them was laying down. I'm like, I don't know how, like chubby people laying down, like their face, like their boobs go to the side, their face, like, girl,
you got to be chubby. I mean, I barely have anything in mind. Just go. And
like, I don't know why you're having me laid down. This is not going to be a beautiful photo, but whatever. Like, I did not trust her with that shot.
There's something Photoshop came.
It was beautiful. Like I was like, I don't know, like it's all about the angle. Like,
Yeah.
I've learned that. Like I actually love the laying down pictures.
Oh.
But even me in a swimsuit on the beach, my favorite photo of me is in a swimsuit on the beach.
Oh,
with sand. At one point in time, she told me to rub sand on myself. She was meaning here. I'm rubbing it all over my head. I'm like, you know what? Oh, are you sure? She's like, well, I guess if you want to do it that, then you didn't tell me. You didn't specify where you wanted that sand to be able. This does not feel sexy. It feels a bit grady. Like
I just love this sand.
But it was so much fun. And it like still to this day, like that photo that she thought of me, it wasn't a smiling photo. And again, like I have a resting bitch face. And when I'm overweight, I really have a resting bitch face. And she, pardon my language, like, but it wasn't that. Like it was this raw beauty, this like there was strength and there was power and there was vulnerability and there was resilience all in this one photo in a season where I was heavier than I had ever been before. And even now, I love this photo more than any other photo I've ever had taken because of that. And it was like, it was in this moment, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is like, I want to walk women in their journeys as they are. Like, you don't have to change who you are to love who you are. I didn't know how to say that then, but that's what this mission became to me because I've lived this. Like, you know, why do we like the reason why I want to lose weight is like, I will never be able to completely remove vanity from it. There is an element of that. But I also know that doesn't matter my size. I trust when my husband says he finds me beautiful. Like he doesn't lie to me. I know that he finds me attractive and beautiful. I know that. Like no matter the size, I've always felt that. I don't understand what he sees, and I don't need to. I can know that like it doesn't matter. So for me, what matters to me? What matters is that I can get on the floor and play with my kids.
Yeah.
What matters is that I can live with them longer. What matters is that I can have the energy to go on play dates and to go and do things with them. What matters is that I can take care of myself in the bathroom and not depend on somebody else taking care of me.
Yeah.
What, like, all of those matter. And so, like, losing weight to me became a different mission at that point in time. It's like, how can I change this focus and stuff like that. So with that is I now no longer look at that picture and see somebody that's overweight. I see power and I see resilience and I see beauty and I see a body that has been fighting to survive, a body that has carried 2 children, a body that is filtering not just the emotional toxins that I grew up with, but we have chemical toxins. We live in Iowa, the #1 cancer state.
I heard.
You know, like we have like all of this stuff, like our bodies are doing exactly what it's been designed to do.
Yeah.
And not necessarily even imperfectly. Like it is, there is so much crap in our life that our bodies are doing what it needs to do. And we can celebrate that. You know, even though we can feel uncomfortable with how we look, both can exist at the same time. You know, like, and it changes the focus. And so, and then like also, you can give yourself so much more grace when you understand the story and you understand, you know, we don't often know, why am I feeling depressed?
Yeah.
Why am I gaining this weight? I can have more grace when I know that it's not me being lazy, eating 1,000 calories a day. And when I'm stressed out, do I eat, well, 1,000 calories, I would still lose weight. I think, you know, everybody, like we all have that. We live in a society that like we glorify gluttony, right? Like, you know, like, so it's not really even about that anymore. Like that is a behavior that we need to work on, but we also don't need to necessarily shame ourselves for it. Like it's like, okay, we live and we learn, right? Like, like what we have wins and we have lessons, like, instead of losses, right?
Yes.
So I came back from Hawaii, like from that, and it was still, that was 2023. And that was April of 2023. The rest of that year, you know, I had surgery in June. I had another workshop that I have learned authentic storytelling. So I had learned some storytelling from another one, but this lady is a bit of an introvert, and there were only 4 of us that came, so there are 5 photographers total. And she ended up asking, like, I don't think I've ever bonded with other women so quickly than on this trip. Like, still to this day, like, I love these ladies so much. And she would ask very intentional questions, like we didn't even leave the Airbnb until 3 p.m. unless we went to like the local coffee shop real quick and then came back. You know, which for a photography retreat, you're typically like sunrise, sunset, you're chasing all the things.
Yeah.
But we still had just as many photo shoots, but there was so much rest invited in on this trip. She greeted us. She picked us up from the airport or from a coffee shop or whatever, and then took us on a picnic at the base of the mountain. There was a stream and there was a moose drinking from the stream, and we're having a picnic. Like that was how we first got to know each other. Like, what? Who are you? Like, what? This was in the Tetons. So I had a love for the Tetons now. But then like every morning she would like, okay, like if you like, who is the most impactful person in your life growing up? Go away and journal about it and come back. And so we would like, I mean, immediately, like we're all talking about our grandparents or our parents, the people that impacted us and why they, and we're crying like in front of strangers that we don't know. And then like one of the questions is just like, if you were to describe the season of your life in one word, what would that word be and why? And I didn't want to answer that because I was 2 weeks away from my second surgery. I was still exhausted. I was still gaining weight. Like I am, because we still had not figured out what hormones I needed to be on yet. Or like, so like I was still in this hormonal imbalance. Because like in January, like, okay, but in January, my thyroid levels were 0.0007, which is super, super, super high, even though it's a very low number. It's like opposites in the thyroid. It was super, super high. A normal thyroid is like between like a 0.35 to a 1.0 is a normal person's thyroid. In April, when they retested me, I was at a 10.7. So I went from one extreme to the exact opposite. I can barely get out of bed. My 6-year-old at the time, one night, I was laying in my bed. I couldn't get up, and he comes and he lays on top of me. He's like, "It's okay, Mom. I'll be here with you." And I felt so much shame in that moment and so much gratitude that my son had this beautiful, beautiful heart that he wanted to be that, and shame because he had to. You know, like, and now I look back on it and I can just be grateful. Like I couldn't help the fact that I was sick, and this little compassionate, beautiful, beautiful soul wanted to do that. Like God is doing something amazing in his life and heart, and I can see that and I can celebrate that. But at the time, it was really hard. So anyway, like that was in June. I was 2 weeks away from the second surgery. Am I going to get better? Am I not? Is it going to get better? I don't know. We kept playing this waiting game. So when she asked this, the first word that comes to mind is despair or hopelessness. And I'm like, I don't want that to be my word for this season. And the purpose of this was, and did she describe it yet or no? I don't think she described what we were doing yet at that with the words. Um, so anyway, she tells us to go away and journal about it. And so I start journaling and I start journaling about the feelings. Like I feel like I'm failing. Like I feel like, am I lazy or am I selfish? Like what is like, am I being lazy and selfish right now? Or am I really sick? Is it, or is it both? Am I just using this as an excuse? You know, like we're exhausted. We're on empty tanks. We have nothing left. And all these insecurities, you know, come. But like, but the realization is like, I don't have to, I just have to rest in the promises that God has given, you know, and it was like, I don't need to know the answers. I just need to know that God is here and present. And I just need to breathe. This is the season where all I have to do is breathe. And so that became my word. This is my breathing season. I don't have to do anything else. I just have to exist. I just have to be here. I have to breathe. And then somebody else had her season was very tension. She had young children that needed her. She had kids graduating that needed her, and she had a thriving business, and she pulled in all these different directions. And her season was tension. And then two other ladies, one was in a very fulfilled season, and one was in a very one was fulfillment, and the other one was um um there was another word like fulfilled, like it wasn't enjoyment. I forget what it was, but again, like you had two like four very like different things. And the goal was that we would take that word and what does that look like artistically? What does breathing look like in a photo? What does tension look like in a photo? What does fulfilled look like in a photo? What is contentment? That was the other word. What does it look like to be content in a photo? And so we, before the next photo shoot, we all got dressed up in whatever dresses we brought. And we went out and what does tension look like? And we're like, I see you at the base of a mountain. And so you had the base of it was broad daylight and you had the blue shadows and you had the bright sunlight and you had her standing on the cusp of the shadow and like this tension. You know, what is breathing? Sound of music. Like, let's have her on a mountain. Let's say it was a breezy day. Let's have mountains in the background and you have this wind flowing. And like that became like you're just breathing in that season, sound of music style. Fulfill.
You have to show me the picture from that.
Yeah. So so that like we went out and like so that taught me authenticity and how to kind of sit in the emotion that the people are in. And some people know how to answer that and others don't. And so over the years since then, I've learned how to not just ask that one simple question because some people are like, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah. It would take me a minute. I'm a processor.
Right.
So I don't say the first thing that comes to the top of my head, you know?
Yeah. And if you don't really know the intention or meaning behind it, now it's like, it's why, like for Lift Your Soul sessions, we don't just meet for the session. I take you to coffee or we Zoom or whatnot. And we have conversations very much like this because I want to get to know your story. And I want to ask questions and, you know, like psychology, like it's one of my favorite things. My brother too, like we love to talk about the heart and all of it. Right. Because again, until you know the questions to ask, you don't know how to move past it.
Wow.
Like you don't know that something is there crippling you until you can face it.
This is so good. So you said so many like good things that I'm gonna have to go back and watch this just for me so that I can, you know, write it down, put it on a sticky note because I don't even think some of the things you say you even realize about the seasons of the friends that come into our lives. Sometimes it's really hard to let go of people that you think are supposed to be forever and it's just for a season or a weekend. And then the trauma that you went through and that you experienced. And I mean, it's so, when you talk about your journey through cancer and your children, it touches me so deeply because I have seen a lot of people leave out of my life because of cancer. And, what's my story with my daughter, Genesis, her decade-long battle with all these different illnesses. I began to get so fearful that, but what if I get sick? What if something happens to me and I'm not here to see my kids? And it just began to be a stronghold on me until I took authority over it the beginning of last year, and I took authority over my health and everything. And I finally just faced it. I said, finally, I'm just going to go get a breast exam because I was scared to go get a mammogram.
Right.
I went and got it, and I thought it was just going to be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But then I went and they saw something in the area that I had thought that there was something there. And lo and behold, they saw something. But then when I went back, I took my mom, I took my daughter, and I was like, okay, whatever it is, I want to know.
Right.
You know, I didn't want to run from it or pretend it wasn't there. And so I went, and the radiologist called me back, and then she showed me this picture. It looks like somebody just threw like milk at a black screen or whatever. And she was like, "Oh, well, these are just calcifications. They're benign. They're nothing." And I had just been completely undone at that point, and and when you talk about your journey, it shows me that there is an other side, a survivor side, that whatever it is you may face, whether it's a health scare or whatever, God is with you through that. You had your husband, your 2 children that love you so much. You had a team of people. You traveled through it. I was like, if you get you get a diagnosis like that, and I feel like, oh man, I would just be curled up in the fetal position, just waiting to go get treatments, just like, but you didn't do that.
Well, so what's interesting is like it's the same cancer that my mom had. So like it was this weird mix of, I know of all the cancers, the thyroid cancer is one of the most survivable cancers, like 99% survival rate. Like, so on one hand, I'm like, well, I'm not going to die from this. And then I had a friend who's like, well, my grandpa died from this. There's 4 different kinds of thyroid cancer. I didn't know which one I had at the time. I also knew that I had been neglecting things for a couple of years because I've been having thyroid issues for a few years. We don't know how long. So I'm like, how advanced is this? At the time, I was going to Hawaii. I didn't know any of these answers yet, and so it was like, but it was like, okay, this is survivable, but it's still weird to think, wow, like it's still cancer. And then there's my kids were, 5 and 3. I was 5. No, I think they were 6 and 4. Because, they were 6 and 4, but my dad died when I was 5.
Yeah.
I have 3 memories of my dad, and while he did some awful things, I only remember the good things. And I was a daddy's girl. Like, I barely remember my dad. What I miss about my dad is the idea of a dad, not really my dad. Like, and I'm like, I don't want that for my children. As it would be different, but not like, I don't like, and so like, there were all these different emotions, but okay. When I was pregnant with my son, I binge watched Criminal Minds. I didn't have maternal instincts yet. They hadn't kicked in yet. I didn't know that I would love this child or how the hormones would affect anything. And I loved crime shows. So I binge watched Criminal Minds. After he was born, I live in this tiny little town. And we kept getting like we got 3 in like a 6-month time period, random letters in the mail. When I say letters, it's like an old a book page, like from an old musty book with certain words highlighted or circled, like Chinese currency or different things in this letter, and that's it.
Girl, stop.
Like very cryptic. Like, and I'm like, and I remember like we would call and record it, and so a police officer would come over, and I remember he's sitting there taking notes down, and I'm looking at him thinking, what are you going to do to protect me? You're not. I'm comparing him to Hollywood actors in Criminal Minds, like this elite, whatever. And I'm thinking of all the serial killers out there and my brand new baby. And I'm like, you can't protect me. We're going to die. And I would sit there and I would lay awake and obsess about it. And then I'm like, and a friend of mine said, like, she used to like go through seasons like that with her, like she's 10 years older. Her kids were a lot older. And she's like, I would pray about it. I'm like, well, what am I going to pray? Well, Lord, protect my children. But what if he doesn't? Because I've lived a life of trauma. What if he doesn't? What if people's sins still affect my children? What is my prayer? Lord, like, keep them safe. But what if he doesn't? Is that the prayer? Like, is that what you're praying? Well, no, Lord, please do that. But if you don't, if harm does come, if they do get kidnapped, if they do get tortured, what do you want? Lord, let them know you. Let them find safety in you. Let their trauma push them closer to you and not away from you. Let their desire for you be more than anything else in this world.
Yeah.
Because of everything that I've seen what I've gone through, and people push away from God instead of clinging to God. I'm like, Lord, let them desire you above anything else. Like, that is my prayer. That is what it comes down to. At the end of the day, I don't want trauma, and I do pray for their safety. Absolutely, 100%. I do pray for their safety. But more than anything, I pray that they can know and love Jesus, because I want them to be in heaven.
Wow.
Like, that is the end goal. The end goal is their salvation. Is if I die, Lord, let them know you and love you. Let them find safety and security. Let them find comfort in you, because I couldn't have survived my worst nights without knowing that Jesus was my hope.
Yeah.
I found comfort in my hard times because I knew that he was there too. And it sounds trite and it sounds, but like, it's not.
Yeah.
And so and same, I don't want to die now. I don't want my kids to die, and I will pray for that. But more than that, I pray that they can know and love Jesus, and that they can take comfort in him, and that they are with him. Because again, that is the end goal. And if they are with him, if they do die, I know they get to be with him and their suffering is over. Okay. So they're not going to get tortured because they're with Jesus. Not that I want them to die.
Or just hypothetically,
Right,
don't
right.
listen to that part. Don't take us there.
But again, I've lived a life where sometimes you have to go there. And if you do, Lord, be there. And I take comfort in that. I'm like, okay, that is my prayer.
Girl, this is so good. And I really just want to keep talking to you, but I know that we have things that we must do as business owners, as teachers, as all the different things that we are to all these people. But when a woman listens to this, and I know that she will, and she knows this is the one that she needed to listen to, what do you want her to know?
It doesn't matter. Feelings, as you're in all the feelings, ask what they are, and ask, is it a truth or is it a lie? What is the lesson here? Whether it's a lesson at your sin or at the sin of others or at nature itself, and the fact that we live in a fallen world, as believers, we know that we're going to be in heaven. This is our hell. And we're still loved, and there's still hope, and there's still joy, and there's things to look forward to. So this is the worst it's going to get for us, even if we're tortured or kidnapped or, insert all your worst fears. Even if that happens here, we know this is the worst it's going to get for us, right? So in that, shame. Let's talk about shame. And I felt so much shame for gaining weight. Why? Is that shame in God? Is that shame meant to lead me away from sin? Is that shame something I don't need to carry anymore? What is the purpose of that? Let's learn from it. When I make a mistake, is that guilt? Is it good? Was it a mistake that was an honest mistake and I've learned not to do that again? Was it a mistake off of sin, or was it off of ignorance? Or, we can look at all the things that are causing the negative, really depression and anger. Those are secondary emotions. The first emotion is something different. It's hurt, it's shame, it's guilt, it's something else. Something has happened. So if we can figure out what that first emotion is and where it's coming from and analyze that, we can start to see what is a true and what is a lie. And then and if we can't trust ourselves, so for me, again, when I'm in my hormones, I know that I can't trust my emotions. So I have my safety net. I have my friends that have seen me through every hardship. I have my husband. I have my brothers who know me better than I know myself. And so all I have to do is be like, this is my gut day. Can you tell me a truth? And they rise to the challenge because they know the truths that I need to hear, and they know how Satan uses my emotions to tear me down. They know those insecurities. I know those insecurities. I just don't trust myself in that.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of it was off of body image. and or relationships. And God has healed so much in both. I mean, there's still imperfections and there's still areas to grow. There's always going to be in this side of heaven. There's never going to not be. I know that my weakness, when, okay, like again, let's talk about depression. It can be off of hormones, but it also can be when I'm not giving myself enough sleep or when I'm traveling too much or when there's too much stress going on.
Mhm.
Or a combination of all of it, and or life events and something happens to my husband or to my kids, or like there are so many things that can happen, like so when we understand that and we know that, is like it just helps. It's tools in the toolbox, and yes, life is worth living even though you're sad. Yes, life is worth living. No, you are not a bad mom or a bad wife just because you're here, and knowing that, and then not being afraid of that. Get in front of the camera, let your husband take pictures, let your kids have pictures of you. Don't lose weight. I mean, well, do if you need to for to better your health, then absolutely do that. But don't wait to get in front of the camera until you've reached a goal. You don't need to be a project to improve. You get to live your life because you are loved just as you are.
That is so good. That is so good. And so I want for people to know how they get in touch with you. How do they book Lift Your Soul session? What does that look like? Do you come to, let's say, Omaha, or do we have to come to you? What would that look like?
It just depends. Like, I travel. I do love to travel. There are travel like session fees and stuff like that with that. But I mean, that's all a discussion. It's really about like, where is your story meant to be told? Like,
Mhm.
and so like, my business is with Light and Lens Photography.
Mhm.
I'm the only one out there with Light and Lens. Think about it this way, because a lot of people say Light and Lens. No, that's not. Like, I tell your story with Light and Lens. Like,
Got it.
so it's put the with in there. But that said, is with lightandlens.com. You can find me on social media like Instagram, Facebook. I'm on TikTok, not very often. Like someday I'll get a marketing person to do my marketing for me, and then they can be everywhere. But in the meantime, yeah, just
Light and
with
Lens.
light and lens, and like what it looks like is it's not just email Andrea or message her and be like, hey, like I want to book a session. It's like, okay, hey, let's hop on a call,
Yeah.
because there are so many factors in there, and I want to know your story. And whether it's a lift your soul session, like I 100% believe every woman needs to do that at one point in time in her life. However, there's also different, like, I really want to celebrate the season with my baby, or you know what, my marriage has come through so much, and I really want to do a love story session with my husband. We
Oh,
didn't
that's
have great, yeah,
yeah.
it's about emotion in the season and who you want to celebrate that with.
Mhm.
And yeah, like, so we're going to hop on a phone call. When you reach out, we're going to hop on a phone call. We're going to get to know each other. Um, and we're going to talk about what that session looks like. And then we start dreaming about where that's, it could be in Pella. It could be in Des Moines. It could be here. It could be in Hawaii or Arizona or Alaska. It's where do you want it to be?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to my home and going barefoot with me. This has been so, so good and better than I would have even imagined. Just a conversation between two newfound friends that found each other on Facebook. And the rest
Thanks
is
for not being a
history.
serial killer.
Oh, yeah. And thank you. Thank you for not being a cray-cray stalker. Yeah. Well, I love you. And I wish you all of God's blessings on your business, on your marriage, on all the different things, on the fruit, and that you just continue to thrive and be exactly as you are. Hi.
Absolutely. Yay.
All right. Thank you.